So you're thinking about moving to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Well, don't. At least not before watching this video, because it's not all blue skies and sandy beaches. And today I'm going to go over some of the downsides to living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, especially during the summer. Hey, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Nick, and on this channel I talk about things to do here in Myrtle Beach. I give tips and advice about the area, and I'm a real estate agent, so of course I talk about the real estate. So if you are thinking about relocating to the area, then be sure to hit the subscribe button down below and tap the little notification bell while you're at it. This way you can be the first to know about what's going on here in Myrtle Beach. I get calls every single day from people just like you who are moving to the area. So if you ever have any questions, or if I can help you find home here at the beach, then I would love to chat with you. You can always use the first link down in the description to schedule a call with me. Now you're probably wondering why I am making this video, because I do sell real estate here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and it's how I make my living. And I have a ton of videos on this channel talking about why you should be moving to Myrtle Beach. But listen, there are some downsides, and my goal is to always be transparent and give you as much information as possible. This way you can make the best decision for your personal situation. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up down below for sharing both sides. Let's go ahead and start off with the weather. Now you're probably thinking the weather, that's a big reason why we want to move to Myrtle Beach, and it's a big reason a lot of people do move to Myrtle Beach, because they're looking to escape the cold winters and the snow from up north. And that's a great reason to move here, but the summers can get hot and humid. Myrtle Beach does have a subtropical climate, and there's about 2 months out of the year, mainly July and August, where it can get really hot. It's not necessarily the heat that gets you alone, it's the humidity, which on its worst days can make it feel about 10 to 20 degrees hotter than it actually is. The good news is if you live within a few miles of the beach, you will have a nice breeze coming off the ocean on most days. And when compared to other places like Florida, which is another place a lot of people consider moving south to, the heat isn't as bad, the humidity isn't as bad, and it doesn't last as long. The next thing that I want to talk about also has to do with the summer weather here in Myrtle Beach, and that is the threat for hurricanes. Hurricane season runs from June through about November here, with the peak activity being from about August through October. I've lived in Myrtle Beach for 8 years now, and since moving here, we have experienced a few hurricanes, and thankfully none of them have been too bad or devastating, but there is always the threat for a big and strong hurricane to hit the area. With hurricanes, you're gonna have a bigger risk of wind damage the closer you are to the ocean. That's because as a hurricane hits land, it starts to slow down and lose its power. You're also going to have a bigger risk for flood damage the closer you are to the ocean due to the storm surge that comes off of the ocean. The good news is when there's a hurricane threat, you can see it coming days or even weeks in advance, so you have enough time to take the proper precautions and evacuate if necessary. The next thing that I want to talk about is flooding, which I just touched on a little bit, but believe it or not, the biggest risk for flooding doesn't always come closest to the beach. The greater Myrtle Beach area is located at sea level and it's flat, so technically the entire area is a flood zone. However, we do have areas that are considered non-rated flood zones, also known as X zones. And the short and simple explanation to that is if you live in a non-rated or X zone, then a mortgage company is not going to require you to have flood insurance. Now, the low risk X zones are big and it's easy to find homes in these areas, but just because you are further away from the ocean doesn't mean you're safe from flooding necessarily. Of course, there are the high risk rated zones right along the ocean, but there are also rated flood areas prone to flooding further inland as well due to the rivers that run through the area. If this is something that's a big concern to you, you're going to want to make sure you check out the flood maps prior to making an offer on that home that you're interested in. That's something that I can help you with. Okay, now I want to shift away from the weather and the natural events, and I want to talk about the tourism. Myrtle Beach is a huge tourist destination with millions and millions of visitors each and every summer, and for some, that's one of the biggest downsides to living in Myrtle Beach. Our peak season here runs from about Memorial Day through Labor Day, and when you live here full time, you definitely notice the more overall congestion in the area during those times. Now, during our peak season, there are weeks when the crowds are the worst, and some locals decide that's when they're going to go on vacation themselves and get out of town. In case you're wondering, those weeks are the holiday weeks and the festival weeks. So Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, the week of the Country Music Festival, and the various bike week festivals that happen throughout the year. Now, a lot of the dense crowds are going to stay contained to specific areas like downtown Myrtle Beach, where the Skywheel is, and in the various campgrounds that you can find along the beach. However, people are going to get out, they're going to explore, and they're going to go to different attractions and restaurants. They're going to go do some shopping at the malls and at the outlets, and even at the Walmarts and the grocery stores. So when you live in the area here in the summer, you're going to have to get used to things maybe taking a little bit longer during these months. Next up is the traffic that comes along with the tourist season. Now, it's nothing like the traffic that you're going to experience in big cities, and I was reminded of that when I was up in New York a few weeks ago, but it can still get a little bit annoying. One of the frustrating things is when you're on the road, it might seem like a lot of the cars around you have no idea what they're doing. And it's because they don't, because they're not from here, they don't know where they're going, they're looking down at their GPS. So you have to be a little bit more cautious and patient because that's just how it is. The good news is we do have multiple ways and roads to get around the area. And as you live here a little bit longer, you'll start to learn some of those shortcuts and less traveled roads. You'll start to get used to that, especially when heading north and south, you have plenty of options. Closest to the beach, you have the ocean boulevards, which I would avoid at all costs in the summer unless you are going to the beach or you're going to a destination that is on that road. You don't want to be traveling long distances on this road. It'll be painful. Next, we have Highway 17 Business, which is just inland from Ocean Boulevard. And much like Ocean Boulevard, you're not going to want to be traveling long distances on this road in the summer months. There's still a lot of attractions on this road. There's a lot of lights and it can get congested. After 17 Business, we have 17 Bypass, which as the name suggests is a bypass to those busier roads. There are less attractions and less lights on this road, so the traffic does flow a little bit better. However, this is the main road people use to head north and south, so there are a lot of cars on this road still. If you have to travel more than 20 or 30 minutes north and south, this is where Highway 31 is going to come into play. This is basically the bypass for the bypass. It's a road that is 65 miles per hour. There's no lights, there's 3 lanes, and traffic flows freely most of the time as long as there's not an accident. Now, heading into Conway, you don't have as many options. It's mainly going to be Highway 544 and Highway 501, which you may have heard about. And then on the north end, you do have Highway 22 as well. Of course, there are also smaller roads that you can use to avoid specific areas, especially during specific times of the day. And as you live here, you will learn more and more about those roads and the best way to get around. You'll also learn the best times to get out and go do the things that you need to do in the summer months to avoid most of the traffic. Okay, the last negative that I want to touch on about living in Myrtle Beach during the summer is the critters and the bugs. I get asked all the time about alligators, and the fact is, yes, they are around. This is their home. But believe it or not, if you leave them alone, they're not going to bother you. If you have a pond out behind your home, it's likely that you'll see an alligator floating around from time to time, and occasionally they will come up on the edge of the water to get some sun, but they're not going to run up to your house and attack you. Again, if you leave them alone, they're going to leave you alone. Now, you do have to be cautious if you have pets and kids. You definitely don't want to let them out around the edge of the pond because that is the danger zone. especially when you cannot see the alligators. Same goes for when you're out golfing, by the way. If you're like me and you're prone to hitting balls into the water, you don't necessarily want to go grab that one that's sitting right on the edge because you never know what is lurking below the surface of the water. We also have snakes and mosquitoes and gnats and palmetto bugs or water bugs, which are really just fancy names for cockroaches, but there are steps that you can take to help mitigate these things in and around your home. I personally pay for quarterly pest control, which is about $100 per quarter, and in my opinion is well worth it. You can also go out and buy the sprays and treat your home yourself, but either way, whichever you decide, it'll help to drastically reduce the amount of critters and bugs that you see around your home. Even if you decide not to pay for pest control, you at least want to reach out to a pest control company to get a termite bond on your home, because as we discussed, it is a humid climate and termites are also an issue here that can become pretty costly. A termite bond is basically a warranty or termite inspection that is given to you by the company that is treating your home. They'll come out every so often, they will check your home for termites, and they will make sure the bait stations that they install are doing their job. Now, there is an initial fee to get your termite bond, and that is going to include installing the traps and doing any initial treatments that they need to do. And depending on the company, this can be anywhere from a couple $100s to a couple $1,000. And then there is a yearly fee to keep it going as well. That should just be a couple $100 a year. But a thing to note is most new homes do come with a termite bond already in place with the bait traps installed. So then all you have to do is pay to keep it going. So those are the biggest cons, downsides, negatives, whatever you want to call them, to living in Myrtle Beach during the summer months. If you want to know all about the positives, then be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the little notification bell, because that's what I'm going to be talking about next week. And if you're ready to find your home here at the beach, then I would love to chat with you and help you out in any way that I can. You can always use the first link down in the description to schedule a call with me. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. I want to thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.